So tonight's a big night for those of you who have been following the story in Lenexa, where there is a proposal on the table and the county commission has voted on buying the old La Quinta Inn and Suites for $6 million and then turning it into a low-barrier homeless shelter. It's not about not helping the homeless. It's not about any of that. Is the location right? Is a low-barrier shelter the best way to go about doing this, where it's not even about being a Johnson County resident? A lot of questions out there. What does it mean for area schools, for area neighborhoods, for area businesses? All those things are up in the air. And a lot of those things, obviously, are going to be, in part, decided on tonight. So tonight what's happening is you've got the Lenexa Planning Commission going in front of the city council, and they will put forth an official recommendation. Now, it's already come out that the Planning Commission is not in favor of this. At least the staff is not in favor of this. The staff has already recommended to not move forward with the funding for this low-barrier homeless shelter. And the Lenexa Planning Commission has never acted outside of staff recommendations. But they can technically do that. There's nothing that says that the Lenexa Planning Commission has to do what the staff recommends. So there's kind of been a malaise that has set in where people are like, well, this thing's not going to happen because the staff of the Planning Commission are not recommending it. Not so fast. Not so fast. So this is happening tonight. And obviously, got to watch it very closely, see what ends up happening tonight. And I want to make sure I get you all the details on this as well before I get to my next point here. All right, it is 7 p.m. That's when the meeting starts. Lenexa City Hall, 17101 West 87th Street, just west of Renner. And suggestions are to get there at about 6 o'clock. Even if you don't want to speak, attending shows support for the people of Lenexa. That's what this is about. And if you do want to speak, just be smart about it. Lay out the facts, set your feelings aside, and just get right to your point. All right? That's the other problem. People that want to speak oftentimes think they have something really insightful to say, and after about 20 seconds, you're like, this person has no business talking. So that's what's going on tonight. Go to Lenexa City Hall, especially if you're a resident. That's where people really want to hear from you. If you're not a resident, you can go to show your support. But it's really important that if you're going to speak, you are a Lenexa resident, because that's who they would want to hear from. So this is the backdrop of what's happening, obviously, tonight. And then you've got this over the weekend, and Charlotte O'Hara, the Johnson County Commissioner, brought this to my attention. One of our callers, you may know him as Travis in Lenexa. Name is Travis Neely. And he dealt with this situation over the weekend that I wanted to make sure you knew about before the meeting took place tonight. So let's go to Travis. He is on KCMO. What's up, brother? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing outstanding, Pete, and thanks for having me on. And first of all, I'd like to thank the planning, the staff of Lenexa for actually doing the research. And if you haven't read what they have had to say, go to the Lenexa webpage, and you can find what they are going to be talking about. And I'll gladly talk about it. Some of the things that they've recommended, and how it's showing right now as far as over the weekend.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they had mentioned was the unnecessary burden on the neighborhood and the businesses that intersection. So on Friday, I was on my way home from work. And I stopped by the house, and my wife said I decided to go run a few errands. Well, whenever I was coming back from running my errands, it seemed something looked very strange. So there was a couple, basically a family, and a few others that seemed to just be lined up on the sidewalks, which was ironically less than a quarter mile from the school that I continued to talk about. So there was a family there. So what I'm trying to say is whenever they are saying a burden on the neighborhood, this is what I'm guessing they are saying is the burden, is because the people of the neighborhood were the ones that seem to have been the ones that stepped up and tried to take care of this family. It wasn't the city. It wasn't.
So hold on. Let's roll back a second. A homeless family showed up in your neighborhood or in the neighborhood of near the La Quinta Inn and Suites?
I'm going to go ahead and call it the neighborhood. It was just right up over the hill from the house. So it was right next to the school. So if it wasn't, they weren't at the La Quinta. They were dropped off at the La Quinta by a neighboring county. I'm not going to, I don't really care to share which county it is.
So a neighboring county or a neighboring municipality?
A neighboring county. So it wasn't even a Johnson County. These individuals were dropped off by a neighboring county.
So the county just dropped them off at 95th Street and I-35?
Basically, yes. So they were dropped off. My wife, whenever I first found them, I came home, and she, with a couple of the mothers in the neighborhood, went up to go and engage them. And so she fed them. They went and got them something to eat so that way they could sit down and talk with them. Well, they didn't know the individual that brought them to the La Quinta, but they were informed by the individual that dropped them off that the La Quinta was, in fact, a homeless shelter. So the La Quinta obviously said, we are not a homeless shelter, and turned all these individuals away and said, beat it, scram. So they started to move in, they started wandering. They were confused. They didn't want to be there, and they flat out openly said, we don't know why we're here. We don't know why we were dropped off. They were confused, Pete. They were simply confused.
So they show up. They think they're going to be staying at this homeless shelter because they're homeless at the La Quinta. The La Quinta obviously is not a homeless shelter yet. Even if all this passes, it won't be for a long time. So now they're sitting on the streets of Lenexa, and you're talking to them in your neighborhood.
Correct. They are in our neighborhood at this point after being dropped off. So we asked him, it's like, well, how did you hear that this was a homeless shelter, who this individual was? And it seems that the way that this is being covered is everyone keeps saying La Quinta homeless shelter, so everyone's just under the assumption that this is already a homeless shelter. They're not aware. They're uninformed.
Oh, my gosh.
So they're just being dropped off. So this is what Lenexa is saying about, first of all, that. Secondly, once we fully engaged, talked to the couple, and we showed a little bit the couple. When I say couple, it was more than just a couple. It was a husband-wife situation with an older son that was having obvious problems mentally, and then some other individuals that were walking by and passing as well. So we naturally called the Lenexa police. You would think that would be the next step, that you had concerns. Well, the Lenexa police basically voiced there's nothing we can do about it. So we got turned down there. So we eventually ended up with the City Union Mission with Terry Megley.
Yeah, Terry's great.
Terry showed up and was great with this. So Terry and myself, we talked with the couple. So City Union Mission cannot take unhoused individuals if they have animals. Okay, and this family had a lot of stuff, and the singles that were being dropped off just had backpacks, so they just kind of drifted on, if you know what I mean. Well, this couple just had nowhere to go, and they had a shopping cart filled with stuff. So with Terry, I offered they had a dog as well, so we ended up adopting the dog Friday.
Is that right?
So that's correct.
What kind of dog? Everyone wants to know what kind of dog.
Well, we don't really know yet. We're going to find out as this puppy starts growing up. But right now, she seems like a great dog. And I tell you what, I feel guilty. I should have let the callers try to name her for us. But right now, we've already named the dog 3 different times in the house. So we'll see where it goes. But anyhow,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, so they had, along with them, they had a bunch of containers and shopping carts. So I'd offered up through Terry couldn't take all of their belongings. So I offered to bring the belongings and just put it in my parking or in my driveway, so that way I could take care of it and secure it for them until we found something to help them out with. But unfortunately, after the family kept thinking about it, walking away, it seemed like it became kind of odd, and they refused to be able to take the help from us. So they decided it was better off just to sleep on the streets.
Wow. So are they just on the streets of Lenexa?
Well, they were. Their shopping cart and a few of their containers. In fact, the shopping cart's still up there. It's at the Living Spaces by the Quick Trip. I saw it this morning. That shopping cart is still there. All their boxes are gone, so I don't know if they came back and got them or if someone's taken them and looted them. And here, part of this messaging, Pete, that's frustrating is KSHB and the local TVs keep referring to this place is basically abandoned. When I say the place, the La Quinta is no longer in use, or we hear words like repurposed. Well, words have meaning. There were 51. I drove through there this morning at 6 o'clock, and there was 51 vehicles parked there that were using this as a hotel.
Yeah, it's still a hotel. Operating. Unbelievable. I'm running late, Travis, but thank you for sharing the story, man. And I still, if you haven't officially named the dog, we'll take dog names here on KCMO. All right?
Hey, I'm down with it. I think this would be fun to see if we can come up with something.
All right.